When you show up for yourself consistently and other people see that, they see that you as a reliable person. If they see you as a reliable person, then you're going to be there to pick up the slack when they fall because everyone's human, right? There's a lot of trust that gets communicated through consistency like that.
Welcome to Unreasonable Autonomy. My name is Sarah Grace. This is the podcast for entrepreneurs and innovators who refuse to settle. Here we dive deep into raw, real conversations with boundary pushers who have pursued seemingly impossible ideas and yet have achieved unreasonable results, whether that's in their faith, relationships, health, politics, yes, even business. All of those conversations are happening right here, right now. So let's buckle up because this isn't about playing it safe. Unreasonable ideas, unstoppable results. Let's go. Hello, hello, hello. It is Sarah Grace and welcome back to the podcast, you guys. We've got a powerhouse of a guest, someone that like energy vibes, right? You ever sat in a room with someone and you're like, there's just some energy here? That is why the amazing James is here. Hi, James. Hi.
Hey, glad to be here.
You may better know him as the linchpin funnel guy. Like literally, if you talk to Chat GPT, that's how they introduce him, right? Is the linchpin funnel guy, which I actually think is pretty amazing that that's what you really establish yourself at. But let me tell you a couple of things. He has certainly mastered the art of memberships, linchpins, MIFKEs. If you don't know any of those words, go to the show notes, click on all his stuff. You can learn all of his craft there. But the reason I really want him here is, James, I feel like you are so incredibly driven by serving. Does that resonate with you?
Is it weird that I'm crying already?
Oh, let's go. Let's go. What is
Yeah.
tender for you about that?
I think it's true. I think it comes from a sort of fear of not being enough. I feel like I have a lot to give and just like, I don't know, like not enough time in the day to give it all.
Yeah.
The truth of it.
And for those of you who don't know you, I mean, you are a husband, you are a father, and yes, you're also a funneler and a linchpin guy and all those things.
Oh.
And so where does this stem from? This whole idea of, am I giving enough? And how does that play a role in all sides of your life?
Well, just to be totally upfront and honest, I think it comes from just a long time just belief that I wasn't enough, some kind of early, childhood stuff. I think that it fuels a lot of us that are in this space where we have something to move past in a way, and it's like in my earlier years, I would mask that through things like drugs and alcohol and, video games and all kinds of things that were just not very productive. And now I've removed all that stuff from my life. So now it's like, okay, I have to give and give and give and give and give and ascend and create more for me to achieve my goals we just moved into this house I'm looking at mountains right now. And I didn't have this not too long ago, and like, there's just more possible than I thought possible. And I know that the only way to get it is to give a ton because it always comes back like at least 1.5x.
Yeah. Oh, amen. Amen. And yet I feel like you step into it with that not being the intention. Like, what am I going to get back from this? Like, you literally go in there to show people what is possible.
True. Yes. I mean, and it's also I used to volunteer at a local library and I would help old people reset their Facebook passwords and their Yahoo passwords. And they'd bring their printer to me to get it online. And I'm like, it doesn't work that way. I'm not at your house. Like, like I was there to help with technology.
Yeah.
And it was, that was one of the turning points in my life, actually, where I wanted some more meaning and purpose. And I wanted to give. And the truth is but it feels so good. We have this tend and befriend response that is wired within us. When we serve others, we do get something back pretty much immediately. It just feels good, like no matter what's happening. And I've got an anecdote. I think we've got some time here. So I live in Asheville, North Carolina. And there was recently a hurricane that came through with a pretty serious flood. And a lot of people got messed up by it. And it was really chaotic. And we had no power, water, internet. And for a while, we had like military helicopters and military Humvees, like not like the Humvee you can get at the dealership, like legit, like those flat, squat, super wide Humvees with
Yes.
military personnel in it. And it was like really, really crazy and I don't know, powerful feeling. It felt super uncertain and uneasy, but the way through that was to go help your neighbor, was to go help someone. It was just like this immediately powerful thing of like, okay, no matter what else is happening, if I've got something to give, I go give, and then I feel good for that day.
Wow. Wow. So there actually is an immediate, I mean, I don't know if you call it a high or a payback or something like that by simply kind of forgetting self and
Yeah,
moving in to help someone else to kind
absolutely.
of move through those times of uncertainty and just things that are scary or new or expanding to you. So I have a question and I want to roll this back a little bit. We may have some people here that really don't know you. So if you and I know you as just the only guy on earth that I would personally refer my clients to, right? If they needed a linchpin, there is no one else on earth, right? And so that's great and that's fun and that's wonderful or whatever. But I guess my those who don't know your journey, if you were to put it in 3 or 4 minutes, your journey in between, okay, I got married, I was a father, I was helping people fix their printers, but not really. And now, as the face of linchpins in the ClickFunnels space, I'm just going to declare it. Okay. Like what happened? Give us like the 3 to 4 minute version, and then we're going to pick it apart a little bit.
Okay, cool. So I've always been technically oriented, and I think that that was really seeded and nurtured through music. I played alto saxophone from fourth grade all the way through 12th grade in school. So like all the bands, jazz band, everything, it's a very intricate, technical, punishing sort of environment.
Yes.
And I did pretty well in that environment. I have, I think, a musical gene, whatever that is, from my dad. And that was that was there. So that was kind of like its own energy. But then I got to college, I signed up as a music major, and then like 3 days before, I was like, I don't want to do that. Like I'm probably going to be like some mediocre like studio musician at best, like not the best lucrative like move for me. Something kicked in. I don't think it was just like, I feel like it was a strong intuitive move. It wasn't just like fear of pushing forward to the new level. And I think it was the right move. But unfortunately, I went undecided, undeclared, and just coasted and just like did nothing for a while.
Mean, you didn't take classes or anything like you
No, I was
now?
just I was
Okay.
taking all the general education crap. So
Oh
like,
yeah.
yeah, like because your first couple of years you don't really have to do too much. And I didn't do well. I failed some classes. I stopped showing up. Just got into some really bad habits. It's funny. I saw a Grant Cardone clip recently where he was talking about like all I got from college was how to do drugs, how to skip class, how to cheat, how to do all this stuff, and I came out $250,000 in debt, and I didn't really learn anything. Contrasted with being an
Wow.
entrepreneur, and I didn't have near that amount of extreme in that direction, but I definitely didn't learn a whole lot of goodness. And then when I finally started to go back to class a couple years later, so I should just say I got I didn't think I was smart enough to be a software developer in high school, for whatever reason, limiting belief. And then I got to the point where I wanted to do something, and I I found an on ramp, gratefully, and then I started to lean into that and through self study. I was at Borders and Barnes and Noble like as often as I could be to go to the technology department so I can go get some books, and I would just teach myself all the different programming languages and methodologies and ended up going back to school and I could basically teach all the classes that I was in. It was like it just like I don't know. I don't have a high opinion of school unless you're going to go in a very specific professional thing like law or whatever, medicine.
Right.
So I did that for a long time. I went really hardcore into programming. I was a software developer, but not just like clock in, clock out kind of person. Like I still have a ton of these books. Like I wanted to learn from the best and be the best and go to the best conferences. And I had aspirations to be a speaker at the conferences and all this stuff. And for someone who was pretty much a behind the scenes kind of guy, that was a pretty cool vision.
Yes.
So I just excelled in that for a long time. And I got recruited to go to cool different companies. And one of the coolest things that I've ever done is I fell in with this crew of creative technologists in my hometown of St. Pete, Florida. And one of my now best friends is named Mikhail, and he is a world-class creative technologist. And what that means is he'll get called by Toyota to create a car that is completely futuristic prototype with projections and LEDs and all this kind of stuff, this fusion of art and technology into this like emotional experience. Like that was his world. And I was like, I want some of that. So we became friends and he started this cool immersive art and technology thing in St. Pete, which is very much like if people have heard of Meow Wolf, it's kind of like that. There's a Meow Wolf in Santa Fe, in Las Vegas, the Omega Mart, that's the coolest one. There's a bunch of them, but like imagine like a ton of computers and screens and LEDs and projectors and interaction and like motion sensors and all this kind of cool stuff, creating trippy visuals or other, poignant messages or whatever. I get into that world and we made one of those in St. Pete, which was super cool.
Word.
Yeah, so I created the whole like server rack and the network stack and programmed a bunch of little tiny microcontrollers and helped artists install their stuff. And so that was like the coolest thing that I did in that realm.
And
Yeah.
you're not in it anymore, which is shocking to me with your energy behind it.
I know. I love it. I'm gonna get back to it. So this was the big transition. So we moved up to Asheville, and my wife, she's an amazing soul. She's from Bosnia. She went through the whole Bosnian War, so she's got a whole bunch of just energy and power, and just she's a force. She was for a while a Tony Robbins platinum coach for like 4 years. So hardcore like performance, like taking people from 3 million to 20 million in their business just by asking the right questions, that kind of thing.
Right.
Then she got to the point where she's just like, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to do my own thing. So I was like, cool. I'm the web developer. I'm going to make you a WordPress site. It's going to be pretty. And we launched it and it got no sales. It had no attention. And I realized I am at the bottom of a new journey. I'm at the bottom of the mountain. I need to learn some things.
You saw it because you put all your energy into it, but it didn't produce.
Nothing. Not even close. Yeah.
It couldn't just be creative.
No.
Something else had to happen.
Well, yeah, I couldn't just be technical because I was mostly a technician, and I made something pretty using some templates. And yeah, it just didn't work. So then we started scraping and getting blog posts and getting really cheap courses on Udemy and finding people like Frank Curran and eventually Russell Brunson. And then we went all in on making her business work. We joined the Two Comma Club X coaching program.
How did I not know this?
Yeah.
I'm like, I feel like I follow you pretty well. This is new to me, so I'm stoked. Keep going.
Yeah.
Okay, you found Russell. The goal was 2CCX. Let's build her business.
Yes, completely. And so I was the behind the scenes guy. I created the funnels, created the challenge, created the emails, created the Twilio SMS integrations, like did all of this stuff. And this was kind of how we started learning this world. We were implementing what we were taught in the program. And it wasn't going super well. It really wasn't. We had to learn painfully what it was like to spend $1,200 on ads and get 800 leads and have, a handful of them show up to the challenge and like nobody buy the back end offer. And like, it sucked, But it's one of those things.
So hard.
It is, but like you have to go through it, right? One of the most powerful experiences we have is contrast between two different forces, So when you have an experience like that, it makes you appreciate when just recently I had a pre-launch for this thing that I'm launching today, and I sold 2 of them just through emails and just through like goodwill that I've earned in the community,
Almost like blind buying. They know who you are, the quality you offer. Sure, I'm in.
Yes.
So different.
It is. But that's because we went through the struggles to experience this. It's a whole lot of appreciation.
And we're recording this at the end of 2024. When did you join 2CCX to start building her business? What year would that have been?
I believe it was April or May of 2022.
Okay, so a couple years ago. All right.
Yep.
Ooh, I'm fascinated. Okay.
Yeah. So we went all in. We're like, Alma and I both vowed that every event that comes up, we have to go. Like we can't there's a Bosnian saying, you can't sit one butt on 2 chairs. You can't be half in, half out. You got to be all in. So we've been all in through every event possible. And it's been really, really good for us. The event though that changed my life was Funnel Hacking Live 2022. At that event, we were already in the 2CCX program. So the big pitch is that. And
Right.
so we basically were just finding out what was our new program going to be, you know?
Yeah. You
Already
knew
picked.
you were staying.
Yeah,
Then what's
100%.
it going to look like? Okay.
Yeah. So, and we had gotten the hint like a week or two prior that there was going to be a big program change. Russell went privately live with us and was talking about linchpin and how everything's going to be different. And like we're changing the entire program. And this is how I've done all my businesses. And that was its own energy. And I thought, okay, cool. As students and implementers, this is the new direction we're going in. This is the guy I pay $30,000 a year to. He's my leader. I'm not going to question it. We're going to go there. That was one thing. The other thing, though, is they added with it the funnel builder certification as part of this offer. As I was sitting there hearing this, I was just like, man, I'd be stupid to not jump on this opportunity. Like with all of my years of delivering valuable results on the internet, 20 years of being a software developer, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like
This
there's
is
so
for
many,
you.
yeah, like there's so many things that I just get. There's so many like underlying things. Like I have been part of teams that have built things as complex as ClickFunnels. You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
understand at the very top to the very bottom when it comes to optimizing database performance and like web requests and APIs, like I understand the guts. So to be able to deliver value for other people, like the tech stuff is no problem at all. I had to learn the marketing, but that's fine. So it was that. And then at this one particular point, it was during this like big unveiling of ClickFunnels 2.0. And in the room, I could sense an anxiety amongst the people that were there. I could just sense there was a quiet over the crowd. And it was just like, oh, these people are nervous. They're nervous about taking everything they have and getting it to this new platform. Like so many people barely have it working where it is, and when you go and move it somewhere else, it's like, who knows what I'm gonna forget. And I've done a bunch of these conversions. It's tough because you forgot about that one Zapier webhook thing
Yes.
that does the thing that when you move it over and now someone's not getting their thing, you didn't know that until you move. Like that's just a total freaking mess. No one has their stuff documented unless they're like a really well-run organization. But most of us are just kind of like people doing stuff
We're
online, right?
bootstrappers. Like
Yeah.
we are purebred bootstrappers. That's what we are. Well, and I want to pause here because I was at the same event, right? I was
Okay,
at the
cool.
same, we were there. We didn't know, but we were there.
Okay,
We were both
cool.
there. And what's fascinating is I think it's important to recognize that there you have one of the best marketers in the whole entire world that is on stage talking about this transition into 2.0. And Russell has changed my life more than any other business person on earth, right? And that needs to be said first. And the second thing is the best marketer can be on stage and people can be nervous.
Mhm.
Right. And that
Right.
you were aware enough to like feel it and sense that he's my leader. I'm all in. And I see an opportunity here. Like I see
Yeah.
something here. I can sense this. I can feel this. So keep going. I'm dying to see how this goes.
Absolutely. So you're describing it very well, and that's cool that you were there. But I was literally in the moment where like I was visualizing, and if you're listening only, I'm using my hands to describe golf basically. I was visualizing this cliff and like this pit. And up on the other side, there was like this like gap between where they were and where they wanted to be. And I visualized myself as the bridge. And I was just like, oh, I can take these people there. I can be of so much value and so much service. And that's when things really started to shift for me. I was like, okay, this is no longer the me and Alma show. This is the me show. Like I'm going to show up. I have something to give that's super valuable. I'm really empathetic. I can sense. I think one of the gifts of my upbringing is I can sense when people are nervous about stuff, and I can sense when things need a little bit of extra love. And I'm really good at making things happen when that's present. So all of these forces came to this point where I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this. And then we can talk about it. But I went to that friggin' Funnel Hacking Lab group and said, who needs help? I'm bringing
Oh my
people over to
gosh.
2.0, and I got clients right there. It was cool.
That immediate. I mean, you
Yeah.
literally put out a post and that's when it started.
Yeah, I started responding to the comments, and someone was talking about who's going to go to 2.0. I'm like, I'm doing this now. And I hadn't really done it then, but I knew that I could. And yeah, I got a couple of clients, some of which are still clients to this day.
That doesn't surprise me one bit, actually. It
Yeah.
really doesn't. That you've got some loyal followers there, many in fact. Okay, so back up. I have a couple of questions about your journey here because I witness your ability to serve, to really capitalize on how you understand the whole picture, and I understand all of that. One of the elements that I would love to hear what it's been like for your family is what was it like to then decide it was the you show? Like, did you feel like you had to kind of abandon other projects with your wife? Or like how, I mean, that's a really sensitive question, but I've got to ask, like, what has that been like as you've become the face of the efforts moving forward?
Okay, let's go there.
Let's go there.
Cool.
That's a
You know,
very real part,
it
right?
it it totally is. So there's a whole lot of energy around that. And to be honest with you, I don't remember how we sort of decided to stop doing that effort and me just to really lean into this. I mentioned it's probably 9 or 10 months ago, Russell had going live in the Facebook group a lot, and he was asking us to give our sort of epiphany origin story. And I mentioned how like this really was for my wife. For me, I felt the need to prove to her that I was strong, ambitious, capable, leader, provider, a whole lot of things. A lot of it was my own kind of like limiting beliefs and, we've had I guess like everyone, but we've definitely had our ups and downs in the relationship. And I felt sort of like this was really on me to lift us up. And right around that point, we were going down and down and down when it comes to money. I had gone all in. I had quit my previous cool tech jobs, and we had some runway because of a sale of a house that we made, but we were getting down to the point where we had not so much money in savings anymore. And
Okay,
so the
scary.
pressure, oh my goodness, the
Yeah.
pressure was insane. We were fighting a lot.
And
My
can I
wife,
pause you right here?
sure. Yeah.
So I think you're leaning into this idea that you did feel in some way a gender role, right? In that, like, I want to be strong. I want to be that provider, right? And I am married to someone like that. And so I actually really respect it. Do you feel like you felt the financial pressure and the desire or pressure to figure it all out more than she did? Or what was that like for you guys?
I think so. I think so. Yeah. I know there was a point at which I was just like, we were, to be honest, we were at each other's throats.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'll show you what I can do. It was kind of like a little bit spiteful, but I was just like, I'm going to go all freaking in and figure this out no matter what. And that was a really like back against the wall kind of thing.
Yeah.
Uh, but I started to really work a ton of hours, but also focus and deliver results and get better at finding new clients and seek additional resources, additional techniques and mentors and things, and really start to turn things around. But one of the biggest things that was a struggle really was like keeping our energy and our spiritual livelihood up, because it's really easy to just like dovetail downward, and it's all doom and gloom. But it's like, no, I know we're turning. Like I visualize things in graphs. I'm like, I feel like we started to turn, and then like a couple months later, like hockey sticks coming, like just really going down and then turning that back up. That was a gigantic win, because this is our first time. This is my first time ever doing anything where I'm not working for someone else. I've always had a
Oh,
job.
I love that.
Yeah, so this was like all kinds of responsibility, money mindset, all kinds of self-development that was just kind of, I guess, created in this furnace of pressure and necessity.
Well, let me follow up with something you just said. I love that you said necessity. Like my back was up against the wall. This was
Totally.
absolutely necessary. And if God or some higher power had to dangle a spiteful comment to my spouse to get my rear end moving, so be it. I'm going to go. I'm going to go and figure
Yep.
this out. But you
Yep.
talk about one of the challenges was keeping your spiritual momentum up. What does that look like for you? What does your spiritual health routine?
Ooh.
I don't know
So
how to put it eloquently. I just want to know
today,
that part.
today it's different. Today it's different.
Okay.
So here's another full vulnerability thing. For most of my life, I was an atheist. I did,
Is
yeah.
that true?
Yes. So
Lots of new things, James.
I know. I don't talk about me too much, but I like you in this format, and I'm proud of where I am right now.
Yeah.
I was pretty much just depressed and like, I don't know, listened to angry music and wore lots of dark clothing and was never like a goth kid per se, but like definitely darker energies. I just didn't feel the light. When I was really little, I would pray every night before I went to bed, I had a connection to God. And at some point I just lost it. Things weren't working out very well for me in school.
So
It didn't
you were brought up in a religious household?
Kind of, not really. I had some religious like neighbors that would occasionally take me to church, but my parents never went. My mom definitely is a believer. I don't know what my dad is, but they never had a practice of going to any sort of place.
Okay.
So I was kind of just like on my own to figure it out. And I got to the point where I'm like, I don't think this is real. I don't feel it. I felt very abandoned and left to figure it out by myself for sure.
So you didn't feel like you were experiencing individual experiences with something divine. You were
Mm-mm.
just like, the heavens are silent. No
Mhm.
one knows who I am.
Yeah.
Abandoned is the word you use. Okay, keep going.
Yeah. And it wasn't until amidst all of this turning of the direction where in my relationship with my wife, where I just got to the point where it was so painful, I just sat in a chair and said, okay, God, I give up. I give up. I'll listen. Like it was my moment of like, I'm done doing this on my own. And I don't know if it was from that day, but pretty soon after, I think I have and still am reading the Bible every night and have gone to various religious events. And one of the things that really opened it up for me, to be honest with you, was in the ClickFunnels community, there is a subtle but present influence of God, and it's not very specific. It's not
Yes.
like, I mean, Russell talks about being a Mormon, but he doesn't really, that I'm aware of, like weave any of those specific things in there. He will talk about God though. And so will a lot of other people. And initially, even then, 2 years ago, I was kind of like, okay, well, I can kind of like delete that and learn
You
what I
just
need
kind
to.
of shove it off. Like,
Yeah, like I'll just, but I was open to it. There was a part of me that was kind of like, okay, with this entire like investment in myself, I have to be open to being wrong, because if I'm not, then I'm not going to achieve the transformation that all these people have made. If I had it figured out, I wouldn't need to be here, right?
right.
So yeah, now I have a connection to God. I pray every day. I read the Bible every day. I recently had the opportunity to volunteer in Asheville, and I chose the organization that has a Christian backing. Like it's just part of who I am now. And I still have, I think one of the gifts of my atheism was I was able to see all the different beliefs and belief structures and see a commonality in them. And now I feel like God is kind of projected or put into a certain shape, and depending on where you might have grown up on this planet, you might recognize one shape versus the other, and it's all pretty much the thing is a common thread.
That he has such diverse people here on earth, and so he therefore can speak to them in diverse ways.
Yes.
Right. And that you've
Yes.
witnessed that, and that your atheism was actually a blessing for you to be
Yes.
able to not push back, but see a more broad view, a bird's eye view of religion in general, and be accepting. And you said you're compassionate and empathetic to those who are going through their own journey. I think that's
Yeah.
that underlying part. I'm like starting to see now why we're friends. I'm
Okay, cool.
starting to see some of those core parts of you. I'm like, oh, this is why. This is why. So let's talk about Russell Brunson.
Okay.
He's been a huge influence on you. You mentioned he's a Mormon. I'm also a Mormon. Okay. What influence has he had on your spirituality?
I feel like I really have to show up with all the authenticity in the world. When I first saw Russell Brunson, I did not like him.
He
Yes,
would laugh at that.
I
He would
know.
laugh.
And the reason why I is because I was so jealous of him because we were both born in the same year. And here was a guy that was doing all this stuff. And I was so far away from anything even smelling like the success that he had. I was so caught up in my own negative sob story victim crap. I was so just far away from that. It was just a defensive reaction, you know?
Sure.
So that's the truth of it. And then when we were trying to figure things out, and I found Frank Kern, I thought Kern was really, really cool. But then I got .com Secrets, and that book distills everything that I had read prior into such a crystal clear, simple to understand way. I was just like, okay, there's some truth here that some magic. There's some real magic about
Yes.
how he can take the complex ideas that other people articulate with additional, I don't know, adornment or something. So there's this, it's like the non-essential. He cut it down to it's almost like a Zen book. That's like
So
a
agreed.
Zen book of freaking marketing, which I've never had that thought before, but that's what it feels like to me.
With stick figures and boxes.
Yeah.
That's it.
And stories.
And
Stories to
stories.
explain everything. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So that's how I fell in love with Russell Brunson.
Yeah. So at first you were kind of like, I'm jealous and I'm not sure about this guy because I'm jealous. He's my age, right? And then you
Yes.
step in and you're welcomed into his world in a positive way through a marketing book, through .com Secrets. And now what's your perception of him?
He's a beautiful man in every sense. You know, I can when I see him, I still see his struggles and his, you know, the things that he is working through. And just like we all are, you know, but he's out there serving. He's just like the ultimate servant, man. Because he just doesn't have to do any of this stuff. You know, like I can imagine the amount of pressure that he contends with on a daily basis, you know, just keeping all of these, he's got such an umbrella of responsibility in all these different companies and all these different offers that are out there and all of this complex stuff. And he's got a team, yes, and I'm sure he's delegating, but still, like it's just so much. Like I'm still at such a small fraction of the responsibility that he is. So I just have so much respect for that man.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible. And truthfully, with all of that pressure, he could have sold it years ago and abandoned us all, right? If
Right.
we would ever put it that way. And that was such a pivotal moment for so many when people realized he really could just walk away and be fine for the rest of his life, financially, spiritually, like go take, his wife off and whatever. Like he could live the life that many of us feel like we're reaching for, but he stays in the game, which is
I
impressive.
think a lot of people do that. I think a lot of people kind of achieve their goals and they're like, okay, I don't need to. I'm going to go do this now. And I think that's okay too. But there's something to be said about, here's another thing that I love about him. You know, he feels like he's called by God to distribute this information to help so many people, you know? And I think that's why he can't quit. He can't, you know. I mean, he's got energy from on high. Yeah, like there's no way he can. So, and he finds a way to stay relevant and stay impactful as everything is shifting constantly with increased competition. And yeah, I respect him so much.
Yeah, because so many of us, I'm like pointing at myself, we get tired. I have to pivot again. I have to figure out this again. I mean, that's the exhaustion of it all. Yeah. It's so admirable to see him still pushing through all of it and serving so highly. I'm thinking a little bit about, you talked about how he feels drawn from something bigger than him, and that's why he stays in the game. Do you feel like you have a calling from the divine?
I do.
What is it?
I believe I was put on this planet to create music, honestly. There's going to be a resurgence in my life. I feel like I'm in, Hormozy calls the Rocky cutscene of leveling up and creating all of this value. I also think I have a gift of taking the complex and distilling it so that a grandma can understand it and figure it
I
out.
agree.
Yeah, there's something happening there. One of my first jobs when I started getting into the technological was I was working at a call center and I would help sometimes elderly people with their computers. I'd help them. And I was like, there was people that were my peers that would be a little bit more cold or less understanding, or maybe a little bit on the spectrum a little bit, and they wouldn't get that human element, but like I never had that. So and my actual grandma, I would always help her out and like just everyone, just a lot of patience. There's some gifts that are there. And so I have that to serve. Like I'm certain of that, so that's what I'm doing now. But I feel like there is a lot of building up expression waiting to come out artistically for me. And I've got the devices, I've had some success in that area. I've put out an album, I've created some art and tech pieces that have been in galleries and museums and stuff. I really just put a lot of that on hold right now so I can build this up because this is my moment to
Yes.
create a whole bunch of wealth and leverage and power and help a ton of people. And I have to see that through and kind of really get leverage and like hire more people and that way I can step away and invest more time into this other energy because I have gifts there too.
Oh my, like that shocked me. That's what you said. That's the calling that you feel like you have. So full disclosure, I majored in music at BYU. Okay. I was a
Cool.
clarinet player from seventh grade through high school, through college, all the things. And I did major in music and I even taught high school band for 3 years. Okay. So like there are so many core things that you and I
Okay,
are
cool.
friends here on. But here's something that is so fascinating that you and I are really paralleled on is the fact that in a way we had to leave that passion and leave that drive for something very unexpected, right? I did not make enough money as a band director,
Yeah.
right? To be a mom and band director, not going to happen, right? And so I remember having like a lot of guilt surrounding that like I abandoned this gift that I had because of financial decisions largely. So I abandoned it. And similarly, you were like, I can't major in this. I'm going to end up as some subpar saxophone guy in a studio recording. Like I'm going to kind of leave this and pursue something else more stable, something that makes more sense, a sector that is really producing right now. So we both kind of did the same thing. And what is fascinating is that we both have this desire to return, right?
Okay. Can you tell me about yours then? Because like I'm gonna flip the script. What
Well,
are you
I mean,
gonna do?
I want to interview you for sure, but the parallel really here is it's the hero's journey, the ability to return back to
Mm,
that home, that self that loved something, but that you have something more within you. You now have this ability to have built wealth, to have built leverage, to have built protection, to have built providing, all those things that are so important to you that now it will give you so much more capacity to give in music.
yeah.
And because all of those other necessities, those other callings that are needed for your family and your marriage will be taken care of and you can now return. And part of me, like you can't see this in my office, but my piano that I grew up playing is right here, right?
Oh,
And it's so symbolic to me that of having my kids take piano lessons right now,
mm,
because that just like was not even in the cards a decade ago. Like piano lessons, James, piano lessons. But this desire to be able to come back, but as a new person with the elixir, right? I want to come
yes.
back. I want to bless. And I understand that there's a secondary journey I have to go on right now in order to really, really embrace that world of music again. So I just feel so connected with what you
Yeah.
are experiencing.
You mentioned kids. My daughter plays flute, and recently, we have
Oh
some.
my gosh. You guys
We
jump
have
on
some.
YouTube. Jump on YouTube. You've got to see the video. Okay, go, James.
I'm not gonna play it, but I had this out because Ella and I were doing Christmas music duets recently. You know what I mean? That has filled my heart in a way that nothing has recently. That was a really special moment for sure.
Oh my word. And why?
She's going, because there's a common thread between me and my daughter, girl dad. I don't know if we want to talk girl dad, but
Let's talk girl
like
dad.
I can resonate a lot with boys because I was one, but like when it comes to girls, I haven't been one. and I have no gender confusion or anything like that. So there's just a whole lot I don't get out of the box, you know? So
Yeah.
for us to find things that we do have in common is really great. She's really into video games, which is cool.
Yeah.
We bond with that. We bond over sweets. We will go to the frozen yogurt place and do stuff like that together. But this has really been a big thing where I haven't wanted to push her. I refuse to be pushy, but I will be presenty. I will present opportunities. I will
Yeah.
present options that I believe will be good for her. And in elementary school, they don't do music anymore, but in middle school they do. And there was, strings or chorus or band as options. And I was just like, if she picks any one of these three, I'm going to be so happy, And I didn't say anything. And I thought she would choose chorus because she's kind of a performer.
Okay.
But she chose band, she chose flute, and I've been really grateful. We take our private lessons, which I didn't have growing up. And they're doing this like flute choir thing where they're gonna go to like elderly homes and to like Biltmore Village and some other areas and perform. And she just said, like, let's play my music together. And I was like, okay, it's in the wrong key, but like we'll play it. And then we found some duets that were made for flute and sax. And yeah, it's gonna be when we're gonna have my family here for Christmas this year,
Fantastic.
and we're gonna play.
Full circle. Full circle.
Yeah.
And it makes me want to step back to a previous story that you were talking about. You were talking about, I kind of grew up religious, like my mom is this way. I'm not sure what my dad is, like those kinds of things. And you're talking about you now as a dad. I don't want to be pushy, but I certainly want to present opportunities, private lessons, like these kinds of things, and allow her to choose. What are some things that your mom did really, really well in raising you?
That's a great question. I'm gonna think for a sec. Ensured that with the best of she would teach me to maximize resources when it came to presenting myself. We didn't have a ton of money, but she would want me to have as cool as things as we could afford to have, when it comes to clothes and shoes and things. So I was grateful for that. Standard of excellence, I'd say. She
really pushed you.
yeah, yeah, high standard of excellence. I think she also would give me like freedom to express. Both of my parents, when I started to, I don't know, just need some other sort of outlet, I started to listen to like louder music and things, and they never gave me any crap for that, which I was grateful for because it was a way for me to just channel some emotions and energy in a non-destructive way,
Right.
I was really grateful for that, for sure.
And so you didn't feel like they picked the battles that they should fight.
Yeah.
In some ways growing up. What about your dad?
One of the things I love most about my dad is we, born in 1980. So we had like this big stereo hi-fi system, like big speakers and lots of different units and things. He had a lot of albums and he'd always be playing music. So I listened to a lot of Pink Floyd and Led Zeppelin and occasionally the Beatles, occasionally Rolling Stones, but like Yes, which is a progressive rock band, Genesis. And I'm standing on his shoulders as a giant when it comes to musical interest. And just, I think the gifts that I've been given came through him.
I love that. And therefore it will connect to your daughter.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a through line there.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So earlier on in the podcast, as you've talked about your father's influence, your mom's influence, you talked about, I now read the Bible every day. Okay.
Yeah.
I now read the Bible every day. That's part of my ritual. That's how I'm growing, keeping my spiritual health alive. But you mentioned that as a kid, and I don't know how old you were, that there was a moment in which you surrendered and you just said, God, I give up. Like, I cannot do this on my own anymore. Can you paint a more vivid picture of your life and what was happening that brought you to that point?
Well, yeah. So it was actually not when I was a kid. It was a couple of years ago.
Oh gosh. Okay.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
Glad we got that out there.
Yeah. No, this was part of that. We're losing money. My wife and I are fighting all the time. Like the relationship was just kind of really, really, really super strained. And we were,
Yeah.
just acting from our younger wounded parts more frequently than we are now. And it was just so hard. It just got to the point where I was so tired of fighting and so tired of like trying to figure it out on my own.
Yeah.
I just looked up and like surrendered. And that's it. I just was tired of doing it on my own. I was building a worldview prior to that, influenced by people like Sam Harris and others who are really intellectually gifted, but have just a strong belief that there is anything else out there.
Yeah.
While at the same time being in love with Jordan Peterson and would love with the two of them would get together and debate. Now I'm much more on the Jordan Peterson. I actually don't listen to Sam Harris anymore and stopped buying his apps and
Jordan
all that.
Peterson is a genius. That's a whole other podcast for another day.
My goodness. Clean your room.
Round 2, clean your room.
Put your house in perfect order. Yes,
Part
sir.
2, James,
Okay.
is coming.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Yeah. So it was just a ton of stuff. Alma and I are both pretty aware of our own psychological like struggles, our attachment styles, all the different just ways in which we trigger the crap out of each other and make it hard for us to exist at times. And we're both like very like just like IQ wise, we're like literally the same score, like we're both evenly matched and
Incredible.
powerful forces. And when we collide, it's an explosion, I'll say.
Intense.
Yeah. So my surrender came after one of these explosions where I was just so afraid of the relationship ending. I could not take it anymore. I'm like, there's just no way. Like I'm not going to go down this direction anymore. Like I can't. I have to go somewhere else. Please help me, guide me, teach me, do something.
I guess I'm fascinated, James, though, that your pivot in that moment was to plead to God instead of destructive, instead of drugs, instead of alcohol, instead of divorce, instead of like all these things. Like, why was that the instinct?
All I can say is it felt like the most human thing possible. Where else are you going to go? There's no other way but up.
I've got to write this down.
Plus, I'd done all the drinking and distracting from previous years. I just could not do that anymore. I knew that there was no other way, and I was so afraid of everything ending that I had to go up. I just had to go up. I just felt like I was in a pit and as down as I can go. Call it rock bottom, call it whatever you want, but I just knew that I had to go up.
I had to go up, and it was the most human thing possible.
Yeah.
I understand you more now because of that story. I love this so much. Can I talk to you about business in this same lane of what I've witnessed from you?
Okay.
I do not understand this, James. I feel like within a period of 8 to 10 months, I had no idea who you were. And then you were speaking on stage for ClickFunnels.
Yep.
Okay. And I actually see a lot of parallels here of this whole idea that I'm going to do the most human thing possible and that there is no other way but up. How did you do it? 0 to hero, man. That's
I
what
know.
I know that it's like not an overnight success. I get you've put in decades to this, but from the outside, it looked different. 0 to hero. What happened?
A couple of things. I've always known that I was meant for more. I've always known that being a software developer was the safe route. I've always known that I've had more energy that needed to come out in different ways. So that's just like this latent potential energy, like a coiled spring, right? Mm-hmm. Potential energy. So I kind of only needed a vessel to pour it into or a channel to pour it into in order for it to come out. But, when it comes to all this stuff, I listen to what other people say that have had more success than me, and I do what they say. Again, because we said we're going to go to every event possible in 2023, they have this Mexico trip. And one of the speakers was this guy named Eric Thane, and everyone has heard his story and all of his stuff ever since then. Well, when he said it, before he was at FHL stage, he gave that speech to us in Mexico. And I resonated so much with his, like, I'm losing everything.
Yeah.
Ads are draining my business. All of the revenue is getting eaten up by ads. I have to do something drastic. And he showed a picture of he and his wife and his I think he had 2 kids at the point. Christmas picture, and they were like kind of faking it, and like it was a really tough time. And I was like, okay, I freaking resonate with you, dude.
Yes.
So that came to me. That was a gift. And his whole speech was like, put out a reel every single day. So I was like, okay, I'm going to do it. And so did everybody else in the freaking room, right? But I actually did it. I actually did it. I put out a post every single day for a long period of time. And people just took notice, because I did that. The at the time director of community, Laura from ClickFunnels, she saw me and was like, okay, you want to be on the ClickFunnels YouTube user stories interview? Okay, cool. Yeah, absolutely. Let's do that. Okay, cool. Finish that interview. We're doing this ambassador program thing, and I think you'd be a perfect fit. Heck yes, I want to do that. It's just like, yes, 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 yes. Keep serving, keep being consistent, even when it sucks. Just deliver, even if you don't have anything to write that day or don't you know what you're going to do, just do something. Even if it's 2 a.m. and it's technically the next day, you haven't gone to sleep yet, so it counts. Putting something out, being consistent, serving, really actually caring about the people that you're serving, really taking the time to think about what it was like when you were in their shoes and how are you thinking and what can you do now that's going to reduce some of the steps for them, It's just all of that. All of that. It's everything that Russell talks about. It's everything about the attractive character in the bottom of the mountain and the top of the mountain, and you're pulling them up and all that. It's just like the map is there for everyone. You just have to do it. And I'm doing it. That's how it happened.
Why does, outside of the algorithm, why does consistency matter for the entrepreneur?
It's for you. It's for you to prove to yourself that you can do it. You know how many people that were at the dinner table with me at that event said they were going to do it every single day and they didn't?
Most.
Yeah.
So this was another one of those moments. I'm going to prove it.
Yeah.
I can do this every day.
Yeah.
And what changed in you from posting online every day?
I became proud of myself, which is awesome. I gained the confidence, while still developing. My on-camera presence increased, and improved. I think the biggest side effect was really the demonstration. I've written about this a bunch. When you show up for yourself consistently and other people see that, they see that you as a reliable person. If they see you as a reliable person, then you're going to be there to pick up the slack when they fall because everyone's human, right? There's a lot of trust that gets communicated through consistency like that.
Wow. And as you've gone through this process, absolutely transformed in a 2-year period, right? I mean, there's no denying any listener or you or me that can fight the fact that you have absolutely transformed in a 2-year period. From I give up to I have so many opportunities. I hope I can say yes to all of them, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
What has surprised you about yourself the past 2 years? What has surprised you?
The number of times I've taken risks.
Ooh.
I have been super risk avoidant the majority of my life. And not only have I taken risks, but I've been excited to take them at times.
Oh.
It's like just when you're on that edge and like, should I make this post or should I not? Should I sign up for this thing? Should I not? Should I create this offer? Should I not? And then it's like, yeah, you just like put your I don't know, for me, I don't know if it's a masculine thing. I put my chest out there. I'm like, I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to actually ship it. I'm actually going to try and see how it goes. That's been surprising, I'd say.
Is risk addictive?
Yeah, when you win a lot, it is.
You want to go to Vegas? Let's go.
Yes, yes. And fortunately, I am not one to like get into that scene. I actually went to Vegas once in my life. I went for a concert, and my friend and I, we had one night of like gambling, and the rest of the time we were at, Red Rocks Canyon and like Valley of Fire State Park. We went to Death Valley. We did all that stuff. That's
Yes.
it's not a place. A risk where I think that I can win, I guess.
Yeah. And what has been one of the greatest risks you've taken in your life? If I hadn't done that, my life would be so different.
I think one that's super relevant and probably the right answer is the commitment to join the 2 Comma Club X coaching program. At the time, it was $2,500 a month, and we just did not have that, And what it did for me was it was a vote of confidence in myself. It's like when I pour that money into me, into leveling me up to be the person who can do all these things that I see other people doing. That's a lot. It's a lot of, still a lot of money. Something changed, I think, within me to be like, okay, I'm worthy of investing that amount of money in, you know, that
Yes.
was that was probably the biggest one. Because again, at the time, we were not making money. We were kind of just living off of savings for a number of months, somewhere between 6 and 8 months of not a whole lot of revenue coming in. I had some like side gigs for a while, and then I was like, okay, I gotta cut these off so we can go all in and burn the boats and all that. And that whole season was just a giant risk.
I'm so glad you took that risk too.
Yeah.
Personally, I just personally am glad. I'm grateful for my clients. I'm grateful for myself that you took that risk. And I know that's a very shallow perspective and selfish perspective, but thank you for taking that risk on that day. You've blessed so many lives. As we start to wrap up this conversation, I want to pull back to the time in which you decided to help people move from ClickFunnels
Mm.
original to 2.0, right? And to me, it's really symbolic. It's really, really symbolic of a group of entrepreneurs that are probably listening today that are working in the old way, right? They're hustling. It's not working. They don't have the $2,500 a month to spend. They're on that side. And they've caught a vision from people like you, from people like Damon Burton, from people like Cody Jefferson, all the people we've had here on the podcast, that there is a 2.0. There's an upgrade, right? In life. There's an ability to work through a spicy marriage. There's an ability to reconnect with deity. There's an ability to become a father connected to a daughter through sacred things like video games. I believe those are sacred times. I really do. Like I'm going to get zapped from up above, but video games and music and treats, like really dedicating yourself in that way as a father. And what would be your message to them that are playing in the old way, the old version, that are seeing this huge gap in between where they are and the things that you and our other guests are experiencing? What is your piece of advice to them?
So to be clear, you're using this 1.0 to 2.0 as a metaphor, but it's really about I'm not where I want to be and I want to get somewhere else.
Yeah. And I don't know how.
Cool.
And I'm afraid of what I'm going to lose along the way.
You're going to lose the things that you want to lose. I'd say have faith in that. It's going to be hard. It's going to be hard. I have been one who feels a lot of anxiety in my body. There's like a ton of stress and tension and muscle tightness and heat and really, 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 really strong reactions my entire life. Very sensitive physical person. I now view that as it's the hand of God working his way through me. It is him preparing me for the next level, right? It's him loosening things up in my body so that I could become a different person. It is the transformation happening. That needs to happen for these people because there's ways you're being certain ways habitually, thinking certain thoughts and taking certain actions that are not giving you the results that you want. And it's possible to think different thoughts and take different actions and have different results. And yes, you will have to give up some things, but there will be things that are not fulfilling ultimately. And you will be so much more beneficial to you, your family, and everyone around you when you change those things. How do you do that? It's modeling. It's modeling and it's putting yourself in the environment, in the tribe, in the community of people who are also on this journey. And hopefully most of them are ahead of you. That's a good thing. Yes. There's a book by a guy named Chad Fowler. It's a programming book. He was and still is a fantastic jazz saxophonist, but also was one of the thought leaders in the programming space. And he has this quote about you want to be the worst player in the band so that you can learn.
That resonates.
Yeah. You want to be the worst player in the band so you can learn. And so I'd say to those who aren't where they want to be, to do what you need to do to put yourself around the people who are in the direction of where you want to be. That's what worked for me. Like I don't believe I would have had this religious epiphany if I wasn't in rooms of people that were very, 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 very successful financially and aligned with God.
Wow. What a tribute.
Yeah.
What a tribute. All right. As we wrap this up, I just have two final questions that we like to ask our guests. First one is, what is one thing you want to do before you die?
I feel so blessed. Okay. So I have like a major extreme version of this, and I have the one that's definitely going to happen. The one that's definitely going to happen is I'm going to ride this thing called the Trans-American Trail. It's an off-road motorcycle thing where you go from East Coast all the way to West Coast on a motorcycle, on an off-road bike.
Oh my
I don't
gosh.
have an off-road bike yet, but I do have a motorcycle. I will do this. The long-term huge vision that I really want to make happen is to ride on all 7 continents. Yes, you can ride on Antarctica. There's a way to get on a motorcycle and drive across it. So I want to go across all of them, camping, like doing the whole thing.
My gut is it's going to happen.
Yeah.
That's my gut. Knowing
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Knowing you. Brilliant. Okay. Motorcycle journeys, 7 continents. Let's do it. Second is, what is a book that every single person should read?
There are a number. I came to this one. Russell now refers to this one a lot, but I came to this one from an artistic perspective. It's called The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield. And one of the greatest points or gifts from the book is, you don't wait for inspiration. The author is an actual author. He writes books and screenplays and things. And you sit down and get to work. Then inspiration strikes. He has a ritual of like putting on like combat boots. I think it was actual combat boots where you put on the combat boots and sit down at the typewriter or whatever and get to work.
Oh,
And
I love it.
it's just a matter of going in and creating and doing the thing. And then once you get in motion, then the genius kind of flows to you, and like you're more of a conduit once you're in motion. There's this saying about when you see someone on the side of the road pushing their own car, you're going to be more likely to get out and help them than if someone's just kind of stuck. I don't know if you've heard that before, but I've never had this thought before, but I think that God will come through you if you're in motion more easily. You know what I mean?
I love it. What fabulous final words. Thank you for your light. Thank you for your commitment to things that are completely unreasonable, right, in life. And thank you just personally for being someone who just constantly delivers. You just are so obsessed with delivering for your family, for your community, for your clients. And it is so refreshing. It is so refreshing. So thank you again, James, so much for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm grateful to know you and to be connected to you, and can't wait for us to meet in person and continue this conversation.
Thank you for listening to the Unreasonable Autonomy podcast. If you loved this episode, my guests and I would love to hear about it. Go to the show notes to reach out and let me know what resonated with you or what topics or guests you want to hear in the future. I am here to create for you. Look, I deeply admire your commitment to pushing boundaries and going after an unreasonable life. Keep dreaming big, taking bold steps, and expecting the unreasonable. For more, go to the show notes to dive deeper into the conversations that will keep you going. Thanks for being here.